Today on Forbes, Google is on the antitrust chopping block, and Trump probably won't save it. In 2020, then-President Donald Trump made history when his Justice Department filed a landmark antitrust lawsuit against Google, alleging the tech giant held an illegal monopoly in the online search market. It was the first major competition case of the internet era. Now, as Trump returns to power, there has been optimism in Silicon Valley that his administration would take a softer line with tech competition after years of aggressive enforcement in the Biden era. But antitrust experts told Forbes that while Trump may generally loosen the federal government's grip regarding tech antitrust, it may do little to help Google. William Kovacic, a former FTC chairman and now a law professor at George Washington University, told Forbes, quote, "Google can't derive much comfort from the election results. I think those federal efforts would carry on." George Hay, an antitrust professor at Cornell Law School, argued similarly that it's unlikely for Trump to pull the plug, especially since his administration was the one to first bring the case. Hay said, quote, "The horse is out of the barn." Google declined to comment for this story. The tech giant's search monopoly case went to trial last year. During proceedings, the federal government argued that Google signed illegal contracts with device makers to force Google products onto consumers. The cornerstone of the DOJ's case was an agreement with Apple worth tens of billions of dollars that made Google the default search engine on iPhones and other Apple products. Google has said its dominant position comes from the quality of its products, arguing it gives consumers easy options to change their defaults. In October, a federal judge ruled against Google, triggering a second trial to determine potential remedies, like banning those types of contracts, or, on the extreme end, breaking up the company. That trial is slated to begin in April. Google has said the government's initial potential requests, filed last month, quote, "go too far." As president, Trump will have the authority to direct the DOJ, via his nominee if confirmed for Attorney General, Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida, to stand down on cases like Google's if Trump chooses, or suggest what he sees as appropriate punishment. But according to Kovacic, asking the DOJ to back off would be an extremely rare move with huge political implications, one which many presidents would be unwilling to make because it would undermine their antitrust officials. One of the only examples of the federal government dropping an antitrust case came in 1982, when the DOJ ended a 13-year-long case against IBM that called for a breakup because the government's case was, quote, "very weak and had little chance of winning," the agency said at the time. Even Trump, who regularly breaks precedent, might be unwilling to step in because of his personal frustrations with Google, said Kovacic. In September, Trump said he would prosecute the company for, quote, "illegally only showing, quote, bad stories about him, and positive ones about his election opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris." The complaints followed a familiar refrain from conservatives that has for years falsely claimed big tech censors voices on the right. However, at an Economic Club of Chicago event in October, Trump suggested he was skeptical that a breakup of the tech giant would be the right move, wondering if it would, quote, "destroy the company and give China an opening for a technological advantage." He said, quote, "what you can do without breaking it up is make sure it's more fair." The questions over Trump's antitrust approach come as he has stormed back to the White House with ample support from Silicon Valley, including Tesla CEO Elon Musk and Andreessen Horowitz founder Marc Andreessen. Even big tech leaders who were critical of Trump in the past have made subtle overtures this time around. Meta founder Mark Zuckerberg called him a, quote, "badass" after Trump survived an attempted assassination in July. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, who owns The Washington Post, stopped the newspaper from endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris in what was seen by some as an attempt to avoid retribution by Trump. For full coverage, check out Richard Nieva's piece on Forbes.com. This is Kieran Meadows from Forbes. Thanks for tuning in.